Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Monika Solanki. I'm a researcher at the Aston Business School at Aston University. And I'm coming at this from a slightly different perspective, and the talk is also going to be very short. Um, I'm a researcher and I'm a computer scientist by training, and my interest is in data integration. So, my interest in open product data is basically because I'd like to integrate this data with all the other data sets, with all the other open data sets which are out there. And I think that this data integration can add so much value to businesses and make business collaborations more effective. So, uh, so Gartner, which is a company which basically makes predictions about technology and how we can expect the trends to move in the next 5 or 10 years, made this statement in 2012 that, well, we know that big data can make organizations smarter, but it is the open data which would make them richer. And this is a kind of coming from a lot of research and a lot of observations that are going on in how the way people use data and the way people use technology to channelize that data is coming from. So, an open data strategy should be a top priority for any organization that uses the web as a channel for delivering goods and services. And we know that more and more businesses are putting up their content online. E-commerce is happening rampantly on the web. And if this data is openly available, it can contribute to those businesses which really think that holding back data is all about power and control. Well, actually, what Gartner says it's exactly the opposite. It's opening up the data which will make them money. So, why is this important? Especially, I'm working on a project at the moment which is looking at supply chains and how information flows through the supply chain, how this information flow can actually help traceability and visibility within the supply chain. And one of the things that we've discovered is that open data within supply chains enables data integration. Now, some of the drivers for this data integration are, as I said, transparency and visibility. So we integrate all these data sets which are produced at various stakeholders, at the ends of various stakeholders in the supply chain, and that helps us in basically tracing products as they move, increasing the visibility, and adding provenance. We've heard a lot about provenance since this morning, and it is a very important aspect of traceability and visibility as well. So data integration with open data can help provenance. Consumer awareness. More and more customers and consumers now want to know where they are getting the stuff that they are buying and what is happening to it, how does it end up in that form, so on and so forth. Compliance with regulations. So a lot of EU regulations are making demands on how businesses should open up their data and how this data integration with open data can contribute to that vision. And finally, there are lots and lots of new business opportunities. So you can think about new small startups that can have this huge knowledge base of data sets and can build interesting applications around it. So, which brings me to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is how does this data integration that uses open data, how does it add value in unexpected ways? And this is also one of the things I'm interested from a research perspective, that what is the added value? How can the unobvious be made obvious? So we know that we have a bunch of data sets and we can build interesting applications around it. But what is more interesting to see is how this linked up data, how this interlinking of data sets can help you make unpredictable decisions, or the use of data in unpredictable and unobvious ways. So this data integration, it encourages the development of mashups and tools that can facilitate browsing and visualization of the integrated information. Now, as I said that I'm more interested in this from a research perspective, and this is what is interesting for me, that opening up data that allows me to do all of these things. It reduces redundancy within and across organizational information infrastructure. So inevitably, if you have closed silos of information, you will find these silos replicated across businesses, because everyone wants to hold their data. They use the same data to power up their own businesses, so on and so forth. But if we have an open repository of data and we have these interlinked, openly available, then you can actually avoid a lot of these redundant silos. It helps deriving new knowledge from existing information by exploiting machine interpretation of data. So if we have this data available in structured formats, which have been described using the shared vocabulary of a domain, then you can basically exploit all these technologies that we have out there for machine interpretation of data, and you can make the unpredictable decisions more obvious to the consumers by, of course, using good visualizations and good integration techniques. And then it facilitates the discovery of new data sets. So when you are browsing a data set, you may find it interlinked with other data sets which you were not probably aware about, and this basically results in new knowledge being exposed from within the silos. So these are some of the things. So of course, I think that building an open product database will help in realizing interesting applications and interesting products around the open product data with these benefits. So this project that I'm working on is FiSpace. So FiSpace is a future internet business kind of, the project is trying to build business collaboration networks within the agri-food, transport, and the logistics sector. And we have a couple of use cases within this project, and some of the key use cases that I think will actually use the open product database if it were to be made available and interlinked with other data sets are these 3 typical use cases, which is about meat information provenance. So there is a use case which is looking at ensuring that the consumers, the regulators, and the producers of meat are provided with all the relevant information that they need in order to make the traceability within the meat, supply chain prominent. And then the export and import of consumer goods. So again, it's basically informing consumers about from where the products are coming, what is the ethical sort of guidelines, if any, behind them, so on and so forth. And finally, tailored information for consumers. This is again a use case which is looking at providing specific information, really specific to the consumers of the goods which they are interested in, and which may not be really obvious from the packaging, like we just saw in the previous talk, which may not be this kind of information is not really obvious from what the product is wrapped in, but it is, if a consumer were to be interested in more information about that, then that is easily available to be retrieved. So helping consumers to obtain better information on the goods they purchase, and producers to better control the flow of goods within the information pipeline. So what do we need? So assuming we were to build such an open product knowledge base, from a technical perspective, and this is just a very brief sort of collection of my ideas, what I think, what we need is accessible data. We need data to be made available without any restrictions on the format or the use of licensing. And this is the only way we can make sure that it is transparently available to all those people who want to use and build mashups and tools around it. Decentralized and scalable architecture, because more and more data will be going into the system as new products are added. This is going to be an incremental process, and for that we need this database to be supported by an architecture which is decentralized and scalable. Then the kind of data formats which applications and even human consumers would be using to exchange data, it has to be made available using standards in a standardized format and in a variety of them. So consumers can use it in the way they want to. So it's not restricted by a specific application platform, communication protocols, so on and so forth. And shared domain knowledge, which is really, really crucial. So again, we have these silos of data sets being replicated across companies and organizations because they do not follow the same vocabulary, the same terminology. And since we are in the process of building an open product database, we might as well take use of that opportunity and come up with a shared repository of domain knowledge, which again people can build upon as they build more and more applications on top of these repositories. So we've talked about URLs this morning, and this brings me to the other point, which is contextual identification of data elements that enable cross-referencing across data sets. So ideally, every every product that you're talking about, every material that is used in the product that we're talking about, it needs to be uniquely identified so that you can cross-reference this across data sets. And this will really make interlinking between the data sets very seamless and straightforward, and it will be very easy to build applications powered by the integration around this. And finally, we need APIs, so we need mechanisms that will allow browsers, human consumers, other applications, web services, etc., to access these knowledge repositories in a standardized way. So that's it. I don't have anything else to say, and I'm hoping that I would be able to contribute in some sense to building this repository of open product data using some of these ideas that I have. Thank you.